are you doing?
Good, good. I've been doing so much lately. My whole spring has been insane. It started with that yoga retreat that I went to, and it was a 3-week yoga retreat. I had never traveled by myself ever because Cody and I have been together since we were 16. It was an experience. It was a learning experience in all levels. I was going in there to learn how to stretch, and I didn't realize everything that yoga was about. So it was beautiful. And then after that, I got home and then I was here for a month and then we went to China and Thailand. And so it's been crazy. I feel like now I'm like ready to settle and kind of like really metabolize everything I've learned.
Wow, you need time for that. How long
Yeah.
were you in China and Thailand for?
3 weeks.
3
3
weeks.
weeks. So we were in China for 2 weeks with 2 of my different suppliers, and then from there, we went Thailand is 3 hours away from there, so we just decided to hop on a plane and just do a week. My mom was watching the kids, and so she's like, "Yeah, enjoy, go on vacation." So China was vacation, but it was a lot of work. It was a lot of traveling and, going through the provinces. China's just so big, and so much learning and things I'd never even heard about before.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. So, Paula, tell us about yourself. Tell us your full name, what you do, and then we'll go into how we met and all those good things.
Okay, so my name is Paola Huffman. And how did we meet? We met through a mutual friend, a doctor friend. He introduced us because my husband and I work a lot with mushrooms, and then we also work with some shaman friends with Bufo various, so a form of DMT. We were both kind of in that world, and so we met, and I feel like we clicked it off really, really quick. Talking to you was so easy, and I remember you came over to my house and we talked, and then my husband had an appointment and we stayed and talked longer. So,
Yeah, it's wonderful.
hmm,
And when I found out that you're the owner and the founder of the New Mexico Tea
oh,
Company, is
well,
that
else ago.
Daryl? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's the only tea company we go to.
And New Mexico Tea Company is great too. I actually always
Yeah.
tell people that, just because I own a tea company, a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're my favorite." You can like all tea, just like you can like all beer, all wine.
Right.
So New
Right.
Mexico Tea Company is great too.
They are great too, but you are our favorite. Just saying. For years now. And once we met, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, oh, this is amazing. And your story is so cool. Like, because you just don't find a lot of females, young females especially, who early on get into figuring out um entrepreneurship and owning a business and finding a business based on a passion that they have. And I found that fascinating about you right off the bat. I'm like, I want to know this chick. She's awesome. And tell us about that journey of how you got into the tea business.
So I'll start by saying I am actually an immigrant. I was born in Mexico. And
Yeah.
so I came here with my mom and my dad and my brother. And then my parents got divorced. And then we moved to Deming, New Mexico. That's where I met my husband as a high school student. We were 16. I feel like it was just love at first sight. I know it sounds so cliche, but I felt like I loved him right away and I knew I was going to be with him forever. And so we came to college here to UNM. And I got a degree in business. I worked in the business industry for a while. And then I decided to do nonprofit organizations. So I worked for the American Cancer Society and then Big Brothers Big Sisters, which made me realize the love I have for kids. And so then I decided to get my master's degree in education. And then I became a teacher, a dual language teacher. My mother in law was watching my kids while I worked, and then she wasn't able to for a while because she got cancer. And I just couldn't leave my kids in daycare anymore. So I decided to stay home. And while I was staying home, I really focused. I love to cook. I love, love, love to cook. And while I was staying home, I really focused on like just really cooking for my family, being a housewife. And being a mom, and I really enjoyed it. But after years of doing that, I did it for 3 years. I felt like I just needed to do something else. I love my kids to death, but the routine of just like waking up, feeding, nap time, like all that was just getting to be kind of boring for me. I just didn't feel inspired. And so I love tea. And because I grew up with my grandma, My dad was in the picture on and off, and so I grew up a lot with my grandma, and in Mexico, you drink a lot of tea, and so I just decided to play with some ingredients, created some blends at home, and then, um, I remember the time my husband and I were out on a date, and, I started crying to him, telling him that I just needed to do something. I said, "I feel really bad because I wanna stay home with my kids, but I just feel like I just need to do something," and, it's not going back to teaching. So then, I don't know, I just had the idea of doing in-home tea parties just to test it out. And so I started doing small in-home tea parties with people I knew, and then those people would tell other people and so on. And it was a small business. But then I just decided that I really, really liked that, the tea industry, the path. And so I decided to open up a brick and mortar location. At that point, my mother in law and my sister in law, Bailey, my sister in law lives in Ruidoso. She was looking at opening up a tea shop too because we kind of all grew up. I mean, I was 16 when I met my sister-in-law, she was 11, so we were like sisters. So we
Mhm.
would share a tea together, we would hang out a lot, so it was just a weird thing that she wanted to do it too, and then I wanted to do it too. So when we opened up our Albuquerque location, she had like a small tea shop in Ruidoso. When I was opening up my Albuquerque location, she said, "Hey, why don't we join forces and do it together?" And so
Oh,
I said, "Cool." So that's how it all started. We opened up the tea shop, and I tell people that I always try to inspire people to just open up their own business. I know it's super scary, and a lot of people think that you need so much money and you need so much knowledge. But if you have the passion and if you work hard, you really have a product or a service that you really believe in, you'll do well. And so Cody and I had some cash, so we used all of our cash. I mean, we were young and we didn't have money from our family, and so we put a lot of it on a credit card. And it was like we either do it or we will go bankrupt.
ooh,
But we did it, and within 6 months I paid that credit card back, and yeah, the rest is history. Now we have 10 retail locations. We have an online store, a manufacturing facility here in Albuquerque. I oversee our manufacturing. So now I just oversee our manufacturing. It's impossible to see the whole business. My sister in law, Bailey, oversees marketing. And then right before we opened up our third location, our other sister in law from Colorado asked, she wanted to also be part of the business. And so now it's four owners. So it's myself, my two sister in laws, and my mother in law. So Nanada, she oversees all of our operations. She had a lot of experience working in the restaurant industry and a lot of retail experience management. So she oversees all of our retail locations. Bailey oversees our marketing online, any branding, anything like that. And then I oversee all of our manufacturing. So any ingredient we buy goes through me first. And then obviously all the recipes I love to cook. So it's really, really fun being able to just taste something if I'm traveling or if someone invites me over to their house or if I'm somewhere and I'm like, "Oh, I can make this into a tea," and just make this almost like a time capsule of my sensorial memories of how I felt at that point, the smells that I had and everything, and I kind of like put it into a tea form. And I don't think a lot of people really understand the backstory of my blends, but that's essentially what I do. So like, for example, our butterfly garden tea, it's our charity. So our organization is separated into four charities. Each owner has a charity we work with. And so I work with Mexican orphanages. And so around Christmas time, I take the kids toys and I spend time with them. And actually throughout the summer too, we'll go do like ice cream parties or we'll go play with them in Juarez, Mexico. And so our charity tea, when I was thinking, okay, what does charity mean to me? And I was just thinking of kids and how much magic exists in kids. And, when you kiss their cheek, they smell like candy all the time. And lemonade stands was something that was like, in my childhood, I remember a lot of like little lemonade stands. So our butterfly garden tea is a tea that has a lemon base, so like a lemonade base, and it has a lot of different like candied fruit flavors for the smell, the kissing the cheek, and then
oh,
it has butterfly pea flower, which is a flower that when you steep it, it's blue, and then if you put lemon juice in it, it turns to a different color. It turns pink.
I can't even. It's like you're bringing like your magic into like tea. That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
and kids would love. I mean, I love that. You're just describing that to me, but I am a big kid. So
Yeah, yeah, we're all kids. We act like we're adults, but really we don't know anything.
no, no, we act all serious and life gets boring and you're like, "God, that sucks. Being an adult kinda sucks. Let me go back into, like, my childhood and be excited about things and do a bunch of different things and, like, experiment and have fun and explore." But what you're bringing is just pure beauty, and there's so much thought and sparkle, and there's a depth to it. I always say that psychedelics are here for us to recognize that there is this beautiful magic and mystery, right? And for us to bring that into our life now. What am I
Oh, for
doing in
sure.
life today, right? How am I walking this earth today? How much fun am I having with it? It's not about staying in those spaces of being disconnected from this world. It's about that connection. Like, what am I bringing here? And you're doing that.
Yeah, I tell people that my first experience, I don't know if you want to jump into my first experience with like a strong psychedelic experience was Bufo alvarius, which is a DMT that's extracted from a toad, in the desert of Sonata. And I had my first experience with because I was really struggling with anxiety. I had horrible anxiety. I grew up with my mom. I was a single mom, so she was always a very independent woman, and so I grew up with like I can do anything, which is great, like it got me to where I am now. But that anxiety just became overwhelming. I couldn't sit because I just had to do, and my mind would just never relax. I didn't understand what peace was like. And so um I was able to get this contact for these shaman and in Mexico, and I attended my first ceremony and I was so nervous, so nervous. I didn't even know how to inhale at that point. Like I had never inhaled before, so I was so nervous to drive all the way over there and not be able to inhale for this ceremony. So I remember showing up and, like, being super nervous. We first did at the Temazcal, which is like a sweat lodge, and it was a crazy experience. They put rapé up my nose, which is like, some people call it hape, which I had never tried. They didn't even explain what it was gonna be like, so imagine going into that.
Ooh,
But I just decided to trust. I said, "Okay, what I am doing in my life now isn't working, so I need to open up to something else and just allow whatever needs to come in." And so I just went in a state of, like, surrender, like, I've had enough of my bullshit, like, I need to do something with life, with my anxiety, and so I did that at Temazcal, and then the next day, we did the Bufo ceremony, and I tell people it's so hard to explain Bufo because it's just, like, beyond words. You just cannot explain what happens in your mind, but I tell people it's like I was reading, like, a 10,000-page story of all the things that I just was not doing correctly in my life in a uh, how do I explain it? Like someone was telling me, but I wasn't getting my feelings hurt, because you can get, if someone tells you you're doing something wrong, you can say, oh, no, 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 I'm doing this and this and this. And so I was able to hear myself and be able to experience. I remember the first time I woke up from my first Bufo experience, I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. And I remember Arturo, the shaman, was just like looking at me and he just kind of knew what happened. And I just said, I'd never experienced peace. People had said, be peaceful. And for me, I had so much anxiety, so much needing to do that it's like telling people cook Mexican food without ever trying Mexican food. How do you do that? You don't know. And so just that like single experience of peace, just like deep surrender and peace was just I remember cried and cried and cried and realizing for the first time how much damage I had been doing to myself and worrying about things that I wasn't needing to worry about. And just like knowing myself at this deep level, like I am not just this body, I am not these names. I'm more than that. And no one can take that away from me. No matter what happens, I have this beautiful core inside. And so that was the beauty of of that experience. And so I came home and I got so curious and I just felt like I needed to do something. And in my head, um just silent meditation came up. Silent
mhm.
meditation. And so I started Googling. I remember I was at the Grove eating and I started Googling like silent meditation retreats and one popped up and I looked at the reviews and I was like, okay, I'm going. And I had never done anything like this in my life. I would have never just gone to a retreat. I trusted it, and, actually, one of my friends ended up coming with me. Anna, you know Anna, my friend. She ended up coming with me to the first, silent meditation retreat, and, they taught us how to meditate, and I just was able to meditation was able to connect me to how I felt, at the retreat, like, give me little bits and pieces. I mean, obviously, meditation is really difficult. People say, "I'm not a good meditator. I'm not meant for meditating." Meditating isn't easy for anyone. It's hard. You're dealing with yourself, and sometimes it's beautiful and sometimes it's not. You just have to sit through it, you know? And so,
Well,
yeah, I just got a little tiny bit of that peace that I felt in the Bufo retreat, and I decided to come home and just continue to meditate. And it's been years since that, and yeah, now I do my own little ceremony every morning. I wake up, meditate, do yoga, I do a lot of flow writing, and drink some tea, turn on some candles, incense. I do a little Bufo ceremony, not Bufo ceremony, but my own ceremony every morning. And there's no need
of
for the
being
medicine.
alive, right?
Yeah, of being alive, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and feeling everything I have to feel. I feel like I was just trying to, like, hide everything, and it's like, "Okay, this is me. I'm perfect, I'm beautiful. That's
Yes.
just life."
Can I ask you how old you were when you had your first experience and you came to these realizations and then your silent retreat?
So I was 32. Yeah, and since then I've attended many silent meditation retreats. 10-day the first one was a 3-day silent meditation retreat, which I highly suggest people trying the 3-day first, because the 10-day is like so hard. Beautiful, but very hard.
Yeah.
And then I've done a dark room, which was also beautiful. You're just in a dark room by yourself. I did it for 4 days, and that was talk about like meeting your fears and your darkness. You're just in there and just having to deal with yourself. And then this last thing was the yoga retreat, the 3-week yoga retreat.
Wonderful. And did you see this is more of a rhetorical question, the shifts that happen with life, right? So now you're able to manage the anxiety, or so many years later, you see it coming and you're like, oh, it's not mine, or I know how to manage it. And what does that mean to you in your life, in your family life, in your business? How did all of these experiences, these deep inner workings that you engaged with, how did that translate into your everyday life?
Meditation, or the style of meditation that I was taught, really introduced me to the concept of self inquiry. So, who am I? When you just like can go into this rabbit hole of like just self inquiry. Why am I feeling this way? What is this? Instead of just being like, I'm angry. Like, where does that come from? Where is that rooted? It's like a constant self inquiry in my mind all day. Like, why am I feeling? I feel my heart, like noticing where the body scans in yoga, and noticing, where you're holding tight. And then throughout the day, if I notice I'm tight, I'm like, okay, why am I tight here? What about this situation is frustrating or is making me feel sad or whatever? Yeah, that just allows me to know myself more, and just have a lot more clarity. And once you have that clarity, you can just allow everything in. And with anxiety, I tell people that in the beginning of this journey, when I did my first retreats or my first Bufo experience, I was really kind of running away from my anxiety. Like, I don't want to go back there again. I don't want to go back there again. And then through the experience of meditation and yoga and flow writing, I realized that my anxiety I call her, she's there to help me. Like, she's there to tell me when I'm going off my path. And so I definitely don't have anxiety like I used to before. I woke up with anxiety. I would wake up in the middle of the night. But now I can feel it in my chest, when I could say, okay, there's something that I'm doing wrong, or something that I need to adjust within me, or maybe I just need to sit down and close my eyes and relax a little bit. And so she's my friend. My anxiety is my friend, and she tells me like, "Hey, hey, hey, like wake up, wake up." And sometimes I tell people I imagine her walking into my house and slowly throwing stuff off the ground, slowly, slowly. And then if I don't pay attention to her, she will start making bigger messes until I can't ignore her anymore. And then finally, until I welcome her in, and I'm like, okay, anxiety, can you tell me? I'm here to listen to you. I love you. You're my friend. What do you have to tell me? Yeah. And then she tells me, And then I feel like I could just have a lot more clarity in projects with my family. I'm a lot more of a patient person. I'm a lot more open to understanding others' perspectives, and then just like knowing that that sometimes I don't need to have an answer quick, or I don't need to do something. Like when you just sit and wait, things just start coming to you, revelations. My anxiety, my friend, I would have never thought 5 years ago, I would have never named her my friend.
How fascinating. How fascinating. And it's the being. Your being is successful. Your being is open to receiving it, open to giving. And there's just so much beauty that is created from that. And look, with your business, what I find fascinating when you say, we have now 10 locations, and then now you have family members who are working within the company, and there's this beautiful exchange that I feel within you with them. There isn't a, well, I'm the boss, I created this. No, it's a collaboration, it's a partnership, it's this exchange that happens. And there's been such an uplift within your own family community that because you've tapped into your own essence and continue to, it's not like the work is done ever, it's
Oh.
it's continual, and at such a young age, Paola. It's so beautiful. It's
Yeah. And my hope with our kids know everything we do, and we tell them it's medicine. I don't think it's fair. Some people can say, "Oh, these psychedelics are drugs," but I'm just like, how are people able to take antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication and call what we do drugs? And so we're very open with our kids. There's a lot of clarity, and they know what we do. And actually, we've taken them to temazcales before, because my hope is, actually this year we homeschooled them, and my hope is that they know that there is not one way to be happy, to live life. There's so many ways. There's so many ways. And I tell people I love to travel because every country I go to teaches me something new, and just like opens my heart and makes me a little bit more malleable to the life experience. I feel like before I was on this path, I was very stiff in my ways. I am this, I believe this. And now I'm just like, I don't know anything, and whatever comes my way, I'll change my mind. Like, what is it? Why can't I change my mind? And so that's kind of what we're teaching our kids, hoping that, maybe they could even learn younger than us, and just be happy with who they are, because we are all really, 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 really beautiful inside. I just feel like life experience sometimes throws like costumes and things at us, but like deep in our core, there's just so much love in there. And
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they're so fortunate. How old are they now?
they're 14, and my daughter's gonna be 12. Yeah, Mateo is gonna start. He's gonna be a freshman next year.
Are you guys gonna continue the homeschooling, or
No, so we wanted to do it for 1 year because we traveled a bunch. We were in Europe for a month, traveling. I mean, throughout, honestly, the whole year we've been traveling, just teaching them different ways of being, different foods, different cultures. And we told them at the end of the year we can continue doing this, or you can go back to school. And Mateo's at the age where he wants to have a girlfriend and have more friends and everything. And so he's really excited to go back to school. Oh, it was such a beautiful experience to just be with them 24/7. It was hard. I'm not gonna lie, be with them 24/7, but them to understand like what we do every day, how we wake up, what we do. Just them seeing how we work, how we communicate, seeing our morning routine. Before we would take them to school, and then start our morning routine, and just seeing the importance of that, and how everything we do to be happy. I feel like some people are just like, I want to be happy, but they don't want to change anything in their life. And it's hard work. It's hard. It's hard.
artists?
But it's
Yes.
beautiful work too. It's beautiful work. I
Oh,
I feel like when I feel like I'm deepest into my healing, and when I'm like really, really struggling through something, I feel more closest to my soul than ever before. So it's hard work, but it's also beautiful. So
yeah, you say it so beautifully. It's so
yeah.
true. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
truly. Um,
yeah.
and so you also hold space for others, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So, my husband and I work a lot with mushrooms, with magic mushrooms,
Yeah.
and we feel really comfortable with them. Yeah, I also do sound baths and meditations, but, yeah, we hold space for people, in different ways. We meet them at where they're at, um, and then let them decide how deep they wanna go into their journey, and sometimes it's just like a little tap, and then they get curious and they're like, "Okay, I want more." Or sometimes it's just like, "I'm so tired of my bullshit," kinda how I was.
That's when the most transformation happens. I'm like, "I'm done with the bullshit. Take it."
Yeah, I love my favorite thing with, I mean, I've had so many beautiful experiences with mushrooms. I've also had really hard experiences with mushrooms where I've like Cody has it's usually when we go deep, it's just Cody and I going deep together and we he's witnessed me laugh and then cry and then get frustrated and then want this journey to end and then feel passionate and then just like it's like a roller coaster of emotions and then at the end you're like, "Okay, I got it all out. That was all that was in there. Okay, it's out. It's out." Because I feel like we have those that mushrooms just kind of like put a spotlight on your emotions, right? Like those mushrooms don't make you feel a certain way. I feel like you have those emotions like buried in you. Sometimes they're like in little dusty corners in your subconscious mind. And then the mushrooms will kind of just be like, "Hey, let's do a clean sweep in here. Like we're not leaving any dusty corners." And so, yeah, with people, I always tell people, like, sometimes you'll have beautiful experiences where it's just like you're in awe and you're in bliss, and sometimes you have to go through some shit, and it's fine, like, it's beautiful because I actually sometimes even prefer to go through the hard stuff because that's where the growth is. You realize, like, "Oh my god, that was in there. Wow, okay."
You didn't even know. You didn't even know.
Yeah,
It's been, like, tucked away nicely in the subconscious and for whatever reason, and then here you go. You have to now look
yeah,
at it, examine it, move through it, and the medicine also shows you all of that. And it shows you how you described all of the emotions that you feel. Just like mushrooms come and go, right? They in nature, they bloom and they some for a day, some for a few days, some but then they go and they're in all parts of nature. They could be on a compost, it could be on a rotting thing, it could be out of spores or the mycelia that's, in the ground. They are such a big part of change. And
mhm,
they show us that everything is changing within us and that's one of the guarantees in life, right? That everything is changing all
mhm,
the time. And our resistance to change is also that rigidity you were describing that brings on the anxiety or the depression or whatever, because the natural state of things is that change is a part of life. And your essence stays the same. That's where you connect to.
mhm,
Source connection. And that reminds me more of like a rock, of a gemstone or a rock that has a particular frequency and an energy. That's where we connect to. We're like, let me remember. And then the medicine is like, ooh, here you go. Like everything is changing and life is a quick moment of time.
yeah.
What are you going to do with this miracle that you're given on this earth? What are you going to do? Are you going to have fun with it? Or are you going to be serious and rigid about it all the time?
Yeah, and I think that medicine, like for me, I would have never been able to meditate in my life, or maybe I would have, but it would have taken longer. Um, and so I feel like the first experience that I had really showed me like a different dimension and a different part of me, and I was able to carry that through meditation and just kind of understand that there's these like subtle realms. You start trusting your intuition a little bit more, and instead of like being distracted by shiny things in your exterior world, you can kind of like hone in into your interior world and notice these like subtleties and this like magic within. I have an example. For example, I was in a meditation retreat last year actually. A backstory of mine is my dad, he was gone for 7 years of my life and I never understood why. My mom always just told me he was an alcoholic and I just like never understood, and I actually think that that's part of where my anxiety I know that's where my anxiety stems from. Her explanation of where he was just never really made sense, so I just created this reality within me, of like, "Okay, this doesn't make sense, but this is how it makes sense." So I just created this story of, like, my life, right? And so I was in this retreat, and then suddenly at this point, I had talked to my dad already, and we just had, like, an okay relationship. He would call me every once in a while, but never really close. And I was sitting in meditation, and I mean, after hours, because you meditate, like, 8 hours a day. I was sitting in meditation, and then suddenly I just like started crying and crying, and I had this like just sadness within me. And then I had these questions pop up, and I didn't even know, like, I just had these questions that I had to write down. And so as soon as the meditation was over, I wrote these questions down. And something within me told me, you have to talk to your dad. You have to talk to your dad. And so I came back, and it was actually his birthday, like 2 days after I came back from my retreat. And I called him, and I said, and he just the same, like, how's the weather? He was asking me just like very surface level conversations. And then I eventually told him, you know what, Dad, I am so sick and tired of like this surface level relationship. I have some questions that came to me in a meditation, and I'd like to ask you. Um, would you be okay with that? And he said, I've waited all my life for you to ask me these questions.
Oh,
And he didn't even know. He didn't even know what I was going to ask him. He didn't know. He had an idea. And so I just asked him, I said, I've been drunk and I've drank before, and I'm a parent now. And I just could never imagine leaving my kids over alcohol. Never in my life. Where were you those 7 years? And he admitted that he was super addicted to like meth and just like strong drugs. And when he told me this, the reality of my life was just like, oh my God, now I get what was happening. Like my poor mom, I feel like I was a typical teenager, just arguing with her. I know you're lying. And she just like knew that I wasn't ready to face that. And so my dad just opened up and he said, I was super addicted to drugs. And I didn't know I couldn't get out of them. I was an alcoholic too. And your poor mom just, and they're divorced obviously at this point. Your mom just tried to hide it all and try to be like that stability with you guys. And it made me feel so much compassion for my mom. I remember calling her and telling her, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And my entire family, they could have easily slipped up and told me, even like as an adult, I learned when I was 36 about this. They could have easily been, okay, you're old enough, I'll tell you. But they wanted me to find out at the perfect time. And yeah, my dad had like really specific memories of like, do you remember when you were close to the bathroom and you knocked on the door? And I couldn't remember a lot of these things, but he could because he felt horrible about himself. And I said, no, no, I don't remember. And he just like went on and on with memories. And then I was able to ask him like, why? Why did this get started? And he was able to go back to like his childhood and explained to me everything. And it was just so beautiful to be able to get to know him at that personal level. Like, yes, I'm your daughter, but I also know you're a human. And I know that you're trying your best. I know that we're all trying our best. And so tell me your story. Like, I want to understand why you got the way why you became addicted to drugs. So, yeah, just understanding that. And I remember the first time I told my mom I was going to do Bufo, and she was terrified. How? I don't want you to be a drug addict. I was like, why would I ever be a drug addict? And she just didn't understand the medicine, obviously, but she had this in her, like, oh no, I don't want her to do this. And so it was like when my dad told me that, so many realities opened up in my head of like, okay, now I understand why my anxiety was the way it is, because my mom created this world that didn't exist so that I wouldn't find out my dad was a drug addict. And it brought a lot of compassion to my mom and just in people in general. Like we are all trying our best with what we have. And my relationship with my mom is a lot closer now, and with my dad too. Psychedelics were able to show me like this magic, this core that I have within, and all this that exists more than within my body than my external, like to really look inside. And I feel like if I would have been meditating and maybe those questions would have been popped up, but I wouldn't have known what to do with them. And I was just like, no, I need to ask my dad this. No one told me to ask him these questions. I don't know where they came, but I just had to know. And it was so beautiful. So much clarity.
wow, and this is news for me since we hung out
Mhm.
last.
Yeah, and I
Oh,
tell people this because I feel like sometimes we just try to hide our life, and it's just like we all have stuff. All of us have stuff. And I'm like, if you say your life is perfect, you probably have more stuff than I do, because we all have our stuff. And so just like finding the beauty, that's life. It's like the polarities of life. If we were always just happy, if we were always feeling just love, then we wouldn't know it was love. We wouldn't know it was happy. You need to feel sadness and sorrow and anger and jealousy to then understand like, oh wow, this is love, this is happiness, this is joy. You wouldn't know. It's like, when we were traveling to in Hawaii one time, my husband and I we were just like in Hana, and it was just a beautiful, there's waterfalls, and it was just like a beautiful like rainforest. And I was telling my husband, I don't think these people realize they live in paradise. And it's how our life is. I feel like we're just so used to this life, and there's just so much to it. We're in it and we don't realize all the beauty that's around. If psychedelics are like that, me, that person looking out and being like, whoa, this is beautiful. And they can show you what's important. They don't do magic, but they show you a path and you can choose to follow it. And it's going to be a um, hard adventure. You're going to have to put in some work because some people think, okay, I'm going to do this trip, this medicine, and everything's going to be fixed. That's not the case. Psychedelics will just show you this path, and then it's up to you to kind of like go in there and hike and get all the weeds out and wake up every morning with the stamina and like, I'm going to get better. And it doesn't have to happen now, but little by little, celebrating the little steps in life that get you to be happier.
100%, 100%. And it's really doing the work. And I love that you described your journey and as it was with Bufo, and then it was meditation, and you listened, and you took your intuition's hand, and you're like, lead me, and I will
Mm-hmm.
come, and I will take action as you tell me to do so.
Yes.
How
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. And even the questions, right, for your dad. Well, fascinating. It's
Yeah.
fascinating. We have everything we need. We came onto this earth having everything we need. uh, Experiences and ourselves that get in the way. Want has to be there to change the path and to see more clearly. And then the path shows itself. But you got to do the work. You got
Mm-hmm.
to do the work. It doesn't just.
Yeah, and you have to also stay humble and just kind of like I always tell people, be a student of life. Like, I don't want to be an expert. That's too much pressure on me. I'm just a student. I'm here to learn.
Yeah.
And yeah, just be open to learning new things. Like my most recent trip to China, everyone was so worried about us going to China, this communist country. Our politicians don't get along. And are you sure, Pao, you want to go to China? Yeah, I want to go. And so I went with my two suppliers. We import tea from China, and one supplier took me to the Fujian province, and the other one took me to the Yunnan province. And it was like I stepped into another world. Like I tell people that I loved China. I loved it because the whole world has bridges to the Western world, the whole world. But China, I mean, the internet is different. There's no social media. The food is so different. I mean, we were in these places, these little towns in China where people had never seen a tourist before. They had never seen an American before. They were taking pictures of us. It's almost like being in an altered state of consciousness, like in this new world. And so I was just like, okay, teach me what you know. Like what this is a whole new world, new culture, new food, new everything. And it was just so beautiful to experience it. There's no Western thinking, no Western restaurants. The food is all well, at least in the places we were in, because we were in very rural areas, and the people, the culture is just so different. And but what we did notice is that the kids loved to stare at us. You know, kids, they can't hide what they're thinking, and so when adults would look at us and take pictures, but kids would just be like, just staring at us. And we realized we're like, okay, these adults are different than Westerners. Like they act differently. They're a little bit more quiet, and yeah, they're a little more. They act differently than we do. But these kids are the same. They are the same. They throw fits. They are loud. They make messes. That we were watching these kids throughout a whole trip. They play. They laugh. They do everything. And then I was telling Cody, my husband, they're in a different world and they're still like our kids. So what does that tell us? Like kids are like closest to source, to who we are, to that beginner's mind. And then it tells us that we're really all the same. You know, like we were all born the same. We're all really the same. But through our life experience, we kind of just like added costumes and veils. And so that just kind of helps you like just have a lot more compassion for people and be able to relate more to people, even if they're not in the same situation you're in. We all kind of think the same. Once you talk to someone, you're like, oh, yeah, I think that too. And so just having a lot more compassion, understanding, and knowing that we're all just trying our best.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Paula, for being here, for taking time with us and sharing your journey. It's wonderful. And we have to grab a hot beverage soon.
Yes.
And it's so wonderful that you do what you do and you are who you are and you have chosen to really tap into that and not just be hold or weighed down by the culture around or your past. And you're just moving forward and you're like, no, I am going to stay humble and I'm going to stay who I am and connect and do the difficult things because that's where the gems are.
Mm,
Wonderful.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
thank you so much for inviting me. This was fun. I miss you. We'll definitely have to grab some tea.
Yes, yes. We were
Um,
just at your shop yesterday, um, with my daughter, and we were at Old Barrel Tea Company, and she's like, "I could just live here, mom." Like,
mhm,
"No, you could." And it's wonderful for her to know that a woman did this, and not that, also we're just beings here experiencing things, but our cultures have created this division, right? Because of
mhm,
religion and whatnot, that there's a difference between male and female. And we're changing that, of course. But it's
mhm,
wonderful for a young female to see that this is possible and you can follow your passion and your heart. You got to also understand the business world. You got to understand how to connect with yourself in a beautiful way and listen to your intuition and to connect with others. Because the business side of things is also very much about relationships and having beautiful relationships. At least that's what I'm experiencing as I'm moving along in my path right now. So yes, you're an inspiration.
yeah, yeah, I think staying true to yourself and then you can just find like with Old Barrel Tea Company, usually tea is like very ceremonial, very serious, and we were able to kind of like I was able to make these travel to places and make these creations where it's like almost like this little like ceremony I have within me. All this that I imagine from an experience that I've had, I can put it into tea form to hope that like these people, when they're at home drinking a cup of tea, they might not know the whole story, but they maybe will get some sort of like little sparkle in there, like, "Oh, this tea makes me feel good." And there's so much more from that. Like the tea leaf itself is just so awesome to be able to, trees are so wise and we're able to ingest this tea leaf from a tree. It's like they're passing on. The people wonder like why does tea make me feel more at peace or bring more comfort? Why is it so soothing? And it's just like, well, these trees are, I mean, they are living organisms and they do have a lot of wisdom and they do communicate with mushrooms actually underneath. And then we get to have this cup of tea and we get to have some of the tree in there and we get to ingest it. And that was another beautiful thing in China that I was able to sit with the trees and just like really thank them for providing me the career that I have. And like I really sat with them and meditated with them and just like, thank you for giving me all that you give me and for all the hard work that you put in to create these really tasty leaves and for all the farmers that are learning the art of creating tea. And there's just so much. Like sometimes you just be like, oh, it's tea, but really like there's so much to it. It's this tree. Who planted that tree? And then this tree had to survive. And then the farmer had to pick it at a certain time. And then the person that had to process it, they had to learn. How did they learn? There's a whole story in one cup of tea. So
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. And it
yeah.
reminds me of my daughter. She just started a candle making business on Etsy, and I use her candles in ceremony. It's a
Mhm.
similar thing, and the energy that goes into that, I'd rather buy it from her than from someone I have no idea what kind of energy is being put in there. And being in your shop yesterday, that's what kept coming up for me, holding um, the bottles full of tea and the glass jars and the different containers that you have. And of course, knowing you gives it a whole different dimension. But the energy in your tea is you feel it. You feel the love that you put into each bottle and each everything that you have in that shop is wonderful. It resonates. There's a vibration that's conscious, that's harmonious, and really appreciate that. Thank
Well,
you.
that makes me really happy because that's honestly like, yeah, every time I make a blend, I just hope that the whoever's drinking the tea could at least feel the tiny little bit of love that I feel whenever I'm making this blend, the tiny little bit of magic. So
Yes, it comes through. So much love to you,
good.
Paula. You
Yeah. Well, have a good day and I'll talk to you soon.
talk soon. Bye.